Just to wait till the butterfly stops flying. All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lynn Woodland. This is the very beginning of the spring quarter of the Miracles course. And for anyone who is new here, I think everyone here tonight has been here before. And anyone who might be seeing this recording later, if you don't know anything about this course, the Miracles course is a comprehensive program of weekly spiritual lessons and exercises that are all designed to help us live a miraculous life. And the format includes weekly written materials that I'll tell you afterward how to access, and recorded meditations that you can access beyond these classes, and also recordings of these whole live classes that you can return to anytime you want. Sometimes, as I will be tonight, I veer away from the content in the written materials. So tonight it'll be very important to go there and check it out, be a little different. And the course here works with a circular curriculum that uses, my tech guy that I keep locked in the other room. I feed him sandwiches now and then, but I don't let him out. I just make him do all my tech work for free. He's putting my first book up, Holding a Butterfly, which is all about miracles. I do this course based on my own personal study and exploration of what gives rise to miraculous experience. I've been doing this for many decades now. So many I'm not even going to mention because it makes me feel super old. My second book that I wrote after this is The Breakthrough Point, kind of picks up where the first one leaves off. And they both are written as miracle experiments, where as you read the book, you're drawn into an active, happening right now as you read, experiment in miracle making. The second one in particular is kind of a deep, nerdy dive into why the times we live in are the way they are. And even though it was written about 10 years ago, a little bit more even, I would say it's more relevant today than it was then. So if you're just feeling bogged down by the craziness of the world, I would recommend checking out that book. If you need a little book to put by your bedside, just open anywhere. The first one, Holding a Butterfly, is a great little book for that. All right, I sidetrack. We work with a circular curriculum here, using the seasons as a template for wholeness because of the way the cycles of nature just create such a lovely template for all the cycles of human growth and experience. They're very archetypal. And the darker seasons that we're just leaving, the fall and winter, when there's more dark than light, we're just about to come out of that season. These are more a time, the dark seasons, for pulling in, for internalizing, for releasing our attachment to the material world, and for birthing things within. It's not so much about trying to push things forward in the outer world. And in the winter quarter that just ended, the emphasis here is on things like spiritual renewal, listening to inner guidance, finding spiritual empowerment, and dreaming the dreams that we will bring into manifestation in the spring and summer. And the last quarter, last month, ended with a whole month dedicated to love and relationships, including exercises for manifesting, calling in the relationships that best serve us. Now, as we move into the light-filled seasons of spring and summer, the emphasis here in this course is on growing our dreams in a tangible form. And we address more the metaphysical principles of manifestation, calling in material goals using intention, will, passion, desire. And in a circular curriculum, the work of one season very naturally lays the foundation for the next, with each piece being an integral part of the whole. And even though here every week is designed to be a complete experience, so it's okay to drop in once in a while, although every week builds upon the last, and you'll get the most out of it by attending regularly. But ultimately, this course is about transforming life, not just creating a result. So it's not linear. We don't start here and end there, creating an outcome. It's more about creating a life, a quality of life, where we see lots of results manifesting along the way. So without a beginning or an end, it's much more about the journey and the present moment than it is about the destination. And this is the kind of journey that delivers more than we imagined, not just the limits of what we can currently imagine. And it's also a journey that takes us into spiritual mastery, into wisdom, not just getting what we want. And I'll tell you, I have actually worked with people around manifestation. There was once a man, I know I'm getting sidetracked again. There was once a man who did a whole 5-day intensive with me, and he just felt very lifted up and enthusiastic and excited. And then afterward, he had an experience shortly after where his ex-wife started suing him for child support, and he found out that he owed $17,000 or $10,000, and he called me up saying, "This stuff doesn't work. I'm really mad. It doesn't work. Look, listen to what happened to me. This isn't a miracle." So, well, let's you and I just focus in on it together, and we'll just, instead of figuring out how to fight your ex-wife to the death, let's manifest so much money that there's enough for both of you. And he called me just a few days later, kind of sheepishly, and said, "Oh, well, you'll never guess what happened." He had this amazing experience with his parents, where out of the blue, they just decided to gift all of their kids with $17,000 each. They decided they'd rather give it now than wait till they were dead. And he manifested enough for his wife and 7,000 more, and he was so overjoyed. And you'd think that would be wonderful. However, there was something in this guy that hadn't shifted. So within about a month or so, he had spent it all and was feeling poor and impoverished yet again. So that's why I'm saying spiritual mastery is about much more than manifesting a result, which is more what I think of as law of attraction techniques as they are often taught. This goes deeper, wider, more expansive. And it includes the understanding that love is the foundation of all spiritual law. And the more we practice this and recognize our oneness with all, the more we find that serving the greater good is our highest happiness. Now, a side effect of living in unconditional love is that we naturally attract everything we could possibly want for our happiness and well-being, and we don't even have to focus on visualizing it, making it happen, manifesting it. We're in a state of love. It comes to us. It just shows up. Maybe things we didn't even know we wanted until, here it is, what my heart has longed for, I never even knew to name. So this course is about getting what we want, be it health, love, prosperity, success, you name it. But it's in a way that takes others with us and raises up the world around us. That's the big difference between what I think of as miracle making and simple law of attraction manifesting techniques. To use a gardening analogy, they just simple manifesting law of attraction, straight out of the 1980s, teach us, we're out of the movie The Secret, they teach us how to plant the seed, but not always how to cultivate the soil. And planting a seed doesn't guarantee that the seed will grow. And now a seed has a truly amazing ability to take on a life of its own and transform into something huge, all in its own steam, but not always. At the same time, sometimes for that miraculous process to kick in, the conditions need to be right. The soil, the climate, all kinds of environmental factors have to be right. Throwing a whole bunch of seeds out in the Twin Cities right now, and it's not going to do a whole lot. Maybe if you have really fertile ground already, things will melt, things will warm up. Maybe some of those seeds will sprout. But if your soil is dry, sand, or hard as cement, clay, or something that just is not fertile, those seeds aren't going to sprout, no matter how miraculous a little seed is. So the spring quarter in the Miracles course begins the work of manifesting our heart's desires by metaphorically cultivating the soil, by addressing some of the foundational aspects of personality and behavior that make us more effective at achieving our goals. And this includes things like clarifying intention, developing will, cultivating faith, breaking disempowering habits, changing limiting behaviors, cultivating our passion for life, awakening our intuition, and all kinds of other things that comprise personal and spiritual mastery. And that's going to make the manifesting work we do in summer more effective. So in other words, it's easy to talk about living in unconditional love. It's a lifetime's work to practice it. And at the same time, especially as we do this work together, we have the magic of group amplification. So even though spiritual mastery is a lifetime's work, we can experience high vibrational states and wonderful results in an instant when we join together for the highest good. And as we dive into the work of the lighter months, starting tonight, this whole month is all about miracles. That's our theme for the month. And a fundamental premise of this course and my work in general is that, as I was saying, we are exponentially more powerful together than we can ever be separately. And I think it's always a wonderful thing to have the opportunity, really the honor, to come together to do this kind of spiritual work. I personally feel very blessed every time I get a chance to be with you all here and see what we create together. So let's dive right in. What do you say? Take a couple of deep breaths. And just let your mind and your body relax. You can close your eyes if you want, or not, but just let your mind just be open, relaxed, not focused, as you just continue to listen to my voice. Breathe a couple more times. This course is an invitation to suspend disbelief, let our minds be boggled, and have an experience of reality beyond what we think we know for certain. Miracles are more readily found in the slightly unsettling territory of paradox than on familiar ground. So, if you're game, let the experiment begin right now by imagining that the earth is shifting just a bit underfoot and that nothing you see is what it appears to be. And the further into this course you go, the more deeply you will enter into a miracle-making experiment. Now, modern science is showing that we can't change our minds without affecting the whole world around us. And as easily as hearing these words, your mind and your world are changing. If it's your choice, you will become a miracle maker. And if you're feeling even a little excited by that, it's already begun. Proceed a little further into the experiment by imagining that even though we're all sitting in our separate spaces all over the country, we're far from alone. And imagine that you've come together purposefully with this group of people for some higher purpose that is probably not entirely clear to any of us. And simply through our intention to do so, we're linking minds for the higher good of all of us. As we'll explore here, all consciousness is connected. To quote one of the pioneers of modern physics, Erwin Schrödinger, who spoke on the nature of consciousness, he said, "The overall number of minds is just one." And to wade a little more deeply into these fuzzy edges of reality, let go of what you think you know about time. Einstein proved in his theory of relativity that time and space aren't a fixed neutral container for matter, and they can be altered by whatever they contain. Time is way more fluid than we can perceive with our physical senses. As Helmut Schmidt, one of the early researchers of mind over matter, he discovered in his extensive work with random events generators that statistically he saw very obvious evidence suggesting that consciousness alone can indeed affect matter, but he also found that consciousness seemed to be able to affect matter in the past Subsequent research has also shown this. So for now, without quite understanding how, imagine that your mind is transcending the fluid boundaries of time and space to connect with every mind that has in the past and will in the future be a part of this miracles course and this little experiment that we're doing right here, right now, tonight. And know that this includes many, many souls who've done this before with us, who will do it via the recording in the future, that this joining in consciousness is happening quite automatically, simply because we're thinking it. We don't even need to believe this. Just imagine what it would feel like if you did. Picture this joined consciousness as clear, beautiful, and only positive. And it's so easy to join this way. In fact, simply by listening to my voice, it's difficult not to. It's as difficult to not think about an elephant right now. We can't help it. And as we join minds for the higher good, and we don't even need to know exactly what that means, we leave behind the clutter of small, weak thoughts that so often cloud our attention. We see images that are beautiful and divine and awesome. We rise into a higher mind that is wise and wonderful. And in this higher mind, we amplify each other's power for good, and we automatically repel harm. You might already feel a difference. Your senses might be a little sharper. You might feel some warmth or tingling or goose flesh. Maybe you're a little more awake. You might notice that your body is relaxing. And you're breathing more deeply. You might notice nothing at all, the real magic happening outside of your conscious awareness. It's too difficult to resist if you're truly listening. It's kind of like stepping into a river and not feeling the current. It just begins to take you. Doesn't matter even what you perceive. Just imagine what it would be like if you felt certain beyond a shadow of a doubt that miracles are normal and they're starting to unfold in your life. And now, for a moment, hold the deepest, most heartfelt intention that everyone experiencing these words, past, present, and future, receives something wonderful. And imagine that just by listening with intent, you will too. Hold this thought lightly and with wonder, like you would a butterfly that just lit in your hand, holding it gently as a sacred experience. No need to strain, simply being in awe. And let it go. And just as anonymous prayer has been shown to have a definite healing effect, even when the recipients are unaware that prayer is being offered on their behalf, just this easily, a powerful prayer has now been set in motion on your behalf. And now, if you start to notice little synchronicities happening more and more frequently, maybe some cherished symbol showing up wherever you go, maybe butterflies everywhere, or fortunate coincidences happening more and more often, just say thank you. As you've opened yourself to God, God is showing itself to you. And now you've become more than a passive listener. You've become part of this experiment, reshaping matter and calling forth miracles for yourself and countless others whom you will never know. So just take some deep breaths and come back from wherever you were. So what did we just do? What we just did in the preceding exercise was to join the very real energy of our consciousness together, as well as with all those minds and hearts who have in the past and will in the future participate in this Miracles Course experiment. Oh, I think Bill, my tech guy, is putting the cover of my book, Holding a Butterfly, up because some of this material I just drew directly from the opening chapter of that book. And this repeated joining of many minds across time and space creates an energy field that becomes a force in its own right. The modern day biochemist, very well known, Rupert Sheldrake, coined the term morphic field to describe this kind of field, relating it to the cumulative memory of species, as well as to human systems of thought. And these morphic fields exist beyond time and space. They're developed through repetition, and they make it easier and easier, kind of like a well-worn pathway for subsequent individuals to follow the same pattern. Through intention and repetition, we create and tap a synergistic force that's exponentially greater than ourselves. And in this way, it becomes easier for each of us to experience results in alignment with our common intention, just far more easily than we ever could alone. And we'll look at this idea in greater depth later on. But for now, to put it very simplistically, alone, we work as separate particles, and consequently are slowed by the natural laws of the physical world. In the physical world, it requires a linear series of steps to get from point A to point B. And movement can only happen through time and physical intervention. When we join together, however, our thoughts, our actions, even our very physicality become wave-like and work through very different laws of quantum reality. And in this quantum reality, points A and B are integrally connected parts of a unified energy soup. And movement between 2 points can happen instantaneously, like electricity traveling through water, with no steps, time, or physical intervention required. And in this world, movement is fueled by consciousness. So going back to that gardening metaphor for life, for better or worse, our gardens start with thoughts, as again, going back to Erwin Schrödinger, a pioneer of modern physics, he pointed out, and I'm quoting here, consciousness is that by which this world first becomes manifest, by which indeed we can quite calmly say it first becomes present, end quote. And it's so easy to deny this connection between consciousness and the material world. So we often entertain thoughts very mindlessly and just toss them about just so recklessly, because just like a handful of seeds sitting in our palm or sprinkled on the earth, they seem so inconsequential. They seem like these little bits of nothing. But a gardener knows the potential for that little bit of nothing to grow into the gigantic zucchini of summer gardens, or, the overflowing rose bushes and flower gardens. And also for the very tender, lovely greenery of early spring to grow into an unmanageable garden of weeds if it's left unchecked. So what if we had the same wisdom to see our thoughts the same way? They're the same. They're very, very much the same. So let's give a little bit of attention to what we're creating with our thoughts. Just turn your attention inward for a moment. Close your eyes if you want. Reflect on where your attention goes when you're not actively engaged in some specific mental focus. When you're alone driving your car, when you're taking a break from work, when you're cooking dinner or doing just the chores of life. Do you tend to dwell more on everything wrong in your life? The resentments, the past hurts, the future worries, judgments? Or do you fill your thoughts with what you love? Happy successes, love that you've shared, gratitude in the present, and pleasant anticipation of the future. Talk a lot about the affirmation, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be great. I got that from a young man who just told a story of saying that to himself over and over, not as an affirmation, but because that's how he felt, and created this amazing new life very serendipitously. I'll talk more about him later on in another lesson. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's going to be great. If you looked at each thought going through your mind as a seed destined to grow the events of your future, how do you feel about the quality of the seeds you're planting? Are they growing success and joy and love, or bitterness and pain and disappointment? Because the thoughts going through our mind are the seeds we're planting that are going to grow bigger and bigger. We throw them out as little bits of nothing. They grow up big and are right in our face. And, most of us have certain patterns of thought that are so habitual that we're really not fully aware of them. These thoughts that pop into mind when we're not trying to think about anything reflect learned habits, things baked into us, probably from when we were very, very young. And we may have habits of worry, or of optimism, or of faith, or of bitterness, or of judgment, or, and so on. Fill in the blank. And the areas of our lives that flow easily reflect our positive automatic thoughts. On the other hand, we may tell ourselves many times a day that life is unfair, or that we're unsafe, or that we don't deserve to be happy. We may be so unaware of this inner conversation that we don't even call these messages thoughts. We call them reality. And what we assume to be true is the reality that we create. Monitoring every random thought, well, let's face it, that can be a really daunting task. But I have found a much more doable exercise that can powerfully affect our thinking is to simply monitor what we say out loud. And this is going to be our exercise for the month. I call it no whining. And as I say, for those who are willing, we're going to take this on for the entire month of March, tying it to our willingness, our desire to see miracles manifest in our life. Now, the first time I did this myself, it came up as a spontaneous exercise I gave the group in one of my 5-day intensives. I didn't plan it. It's just like, okay, we all need this. We're a bunch of whiners. This is our exercise. And in this group, in this 5-day intensive, I suggested we make it a 3-month-long commitment. And I committed myself. Now, I kind of choke up just anytime I feel a little thing in my throat. It means, some of my stuff is like on the surface. I only lasted 15 minutes before I almost broke my commitment and whined. I think my little means I need this exercise this month myself. And it only took 15 minutes, but I caught myself just in the nick of time. But man, that made me so aware of how automatic complaining can be. Now, interestingly, once I got the hang of no whining, I found my inner dialogue changing along with my spoken words. I mean, it just was not as fulfilling to whine to myself anymore. Wasn't fun anymore. And after I practiced this for a few weeks, I noticed any number of things that I usually struggled with just falling in place with an ease that really did feel miraculous. It's how I got my first book written, a book that I now think of as really badly written and I've let go out of print. But then, there's a foundational block, it led to other books. I was working hard on that and having all kinds of roadblocks. It just boom, fell into place. And it also forced me to find a different way of sharing with my friends. One that wasn't based on commiserating. Let me tell you how bad my life is. Oh yeah, mine's so bad too. Oh yeah, oh. And I didn't suddenly turn into this, little always happy Pollyanna. But when I did share something painful in my life, I did it in a way that left me feeling more empowered afterward. I reached out for help, help rather than just sympathy. And some of my friends later reported, I reached out for help. I also talked about how I might have played a role in this happening and what I could do to shift it. So I talked it out. I processed it in a way that helped me move forward through it rather than just kind of splash around in it. What's more, some of my friends reported later that their words and thoughts started changing too. They stopped whining to me in response to me not whining back. And this enhanced the quality of our relationship. And it seemed to be something that my friends took with them beyond our interaction. At least so I heard from some of them. So in preparation for the new growing season, in preparation for the manifesting work that we're going to do later in this season, your first assignment here is to practice no whining for a month. Now, the month time frame isn't to suggest that you should begin whining again come April, but a month is long enough to break an old habit and set a new one in place. So the idea here is to start a new habit of thinking and speaking. And furthermore, having a clear-cut start and finish date to the assignment strengthens the power of your word, your intention, and your will in a way that just, trying to do the exercise as well as you can for as long as you can until you just kind of forget it, doesn't. Not nearly as powerful to do it that way. Because every time you make a clear commitment to something and keep it, you strengthen your ability to make things happen in the way that you intend them to. And we'll go more deeply into this idea in another lesson. So recognize that this exercise is as much about strengthening the power of your will and your intention as it is about changing your thinking. So here's how this works. Starting now and continuing for 1 month, let go of all talk and all conversation in which you present yourself as an unfortunate victim of circumstances beyond your control. If you slip and catch yourself in a whine, redirect it by acknowledging maybe your own participation in bringing the situation about. And share what you're willing to do to change your experience. Or share what hidden lessons or blessings you're receiving from this experience. And maybe ask the person you're speaking to for help. And the help you ask for, it might be for changing your situation or just helping you to change your state of mind. I mean, ask them to tell you a joke to help you laugh rather than rather than bemoan. In other words, it's okay to feel bad and talk about it. In fact, I think when we go through something hard, we need to share it out loud and not just hold everything in. Sharing is part of showing our vulnerability. It's part of letting people reach out and help us. So I'm not saying you can't talk about your pain and suffering in life, the hard things you're going through. What I'm suggesting is that even if, the first round of talking about it is like, oh God, this happened to me, like, oh, poor me. Then continue with looking at it more deeply and processing through to that next step of, okay, what is this teaching me? What's it telling me about life? How can I shift it? And even if you don't believe all this, even if you believe, well, I was totally a victim. I mean, come on, that was not my... Part of spiritual law, spiritual principles say that, we are connected everywhere to everything. Even physics is starting to validate that aspect of spiritual law. There is nothing happening outside of us that isn't somehow connected to what is inside of us. And this principle that we're going to work with this more deeply later, but it's never to be used with shame and blame. The crap going on in our life is not telling us what we did wrong. It's showing us something coming up that's helping us to grow, to shift, to change, to transform. So it's never about taking on a victim and transforming it into, oh, I'm so bad, look what I created. No. no, no, no. And again, we'll talk more about that later, but just gotta say that up front. Now, to up the effectiveness of this assignment, do it for 1 month to our first session in April. Till we meet again here on a Wednesday night in April. Do it for 1 month in an absolute way as a symbolic act, meaning that you're going to give it added power by giving it a bigger significance. Tell yourself that if you are willing to absolutely eliminate victim speech for this month, you can manifest the highest good that you most desire. You can manifest miracles in your life. And assume that this is the truth, so that when you're tempted to cheat, the question to yourself becomes, if my most heartfelt dreams coming to fruition, if my miraculous life depends upon me choosing not to complain about my life right now, what do I choose? Do I want to whine and complain? Or do I want miracles? What do I love more? Complaining, or having my heart's desire? Whining, miracles. Really, spiritual law, hard to practice, but actually very simple. Now, the total, absolute, never cheating, even once aspect of this assignment is important because it strengthens your focus and your will, making whatever you set your mind to easier to accomplish. And if you do slip and whine, it could whoop, just slipped out before you could catch it. Here's how you can deal with that and continue the assignment. You can begin again, recommitting for a new 1 month period, not just saying, oh, well, oops, I'll just keep going. No, you start over. The month starts from the slip, another 30 days. Or you can go back to the person you whined to and just verbally cancel your old statement with a truer one, as in, you know how I was complaining to you today? I just needed to come back and say the bigger truth is that I know I have a lot of power to change this situation and that I'm actually learning something from it. And it does me no justice. It doesn't serve me to act like a victim here. So the next time you catch me whining about it, would you remind me of this? Now, if you find that you keep slipping and you can't get through a month of this, you just can't. It may be that some part of you is not quite ready to move out of struggle. And it could be that there's some payoff for you in not manifesting something greater, something less painful. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing. Again, nothing to shame yourself and blame yourself for. We're going to go more deeply into this idea so you can understand what I mean here and work with. Sometimes we are stuck for a reason, and we're going to go into that in another lesson to understand the why we might be stuck and how to get beyond that place. So, I want to take some questions, but first, let me tell you how to get to the other materials. Well, the written materials that go along with this class, they go into some extended information, so definitely read them. They're all buried in a hidden page on my website. There's also a recording of tonight's live class. There is also Sometimes we take meditations from the live classes and record them separately in a recording studio with a nice sound bed. So you can just go right to the meditation and listen to them again if you would like. But here's how to get to all of that. Go to my website, lynn@lynnwoodland.com. Go to the drop-down menu or go to the Miracles course option on the menu bar. Click on that. That'll take you to a drop-down menu that shows the months of the year. Go to March. Click on that. That takes you to a drop-down where you'll see the weeks of March. Click on the first week of March, and that'll take you to the hidden page that requires a code to access. The code you want to type in is 33 capital G capital I, as in 33 gig, 33 capital G capital I. Now the letters are always capitalized, and this hidden page will be yours for as long as you have that code. So you can go back to it as many times as you would like. The other thing that's important to know about this course, I've been leading it for about 20 years. And since COVID, I've been doing it as my service to other nonprofit spiritual centers. So I don't take any money for it. I offer it to other centers to post on their website and draw people in through their community, and you give your donation purely to them. Now, when I did monetize this course, a typical donation was in the neighborhood of $20 to $25 per session. Of course, that was a per person average, people giving everything from 0 to hundreds. And the way to determine what the right amount for you is to just take a moment, reflect, listen to your heart. It's important, money is a way that gives a subliminal message to our subconscious mind, telling us that this has real value when we give money to something. So if we just do these classes and we don't even think about the donation option, we're kind of cheating ourselves, because that tells our subconscious mind that, we're just passing time. It's just entertainment. It doesn't necessarily validate the spiritual work we're doing here. There's something in that contribution that gives it roots, gives it real teeth, and brings it down to earth so that we see it manifest. We don't just have a little spiritual experience. If we do that too much, it becomes something called spiritual bypassing. Google that if you've never heard the term spiritual bypassing. This is about saying this is of value to me, so much so that I'm putting my money where my intention is, and give to your spiritual community. It's important that we support our spiritual communities. Go right to their website, to their donate option. Doesn't go to me, doesn't go through me at all. So just going forward, that is how, and listen to your inner guidance. The amount comes not from a place of fear, like, oh my God, what will they all think of me if I don't give at least? Doesn't come from that place. Doesn't come from a fear place of, oh God, I don't have any money, I can't give anything this week. Doesn't come from that place either. It comes from something that just shows up. See what pops into mind. That I've done this in my own classes for years. It has a very miraculous way of connecting you with all kinds of abundant serendipities. Not even going to go into here, but that's the way to handle the donation here. So I think we can probably cut away from the recording, and I'll just take any questions or comments, questions about the assignment, if you have them, as well as any questions that came up during the content tonight. I said I would stay on later for anyone who didn't get a little intuitive message earlier if you wanted one. As I always say, never listen to me as an intuitive sometimes. Intuitives, they're always wrong sometimes, so listen to you first.